Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Ashley Hicks. How's it going?
Hey, going good.
Joe Courtney.
Hello.
Kyle Schrum.
Hello.
Oh, no.
Okay.
There it is.
We're playing the repeater.
I'm just going to go straight to updates. I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. Kyle, how's life, man?
Life is good. I joined the ranks of cyclists this week. Actually,
I saw
yesterday.
that picture.
Yeah.
You put that in the group, man. Did you put it in the group?
No, I didn't put it in the group. I can. I will. I bought an old clunker bicycle, a road bike, to kind of start riding around and feeling that out, seeing if it's something I want to invest more time and money into getting into. But it seems pretty cool.
It is
like
an
it so
expensive
far.
sport as you get more into it.
Yeah, even for an old clunker. Like
That bike wasn't too much of a clunker as you're describing. I mean, it was still like it's a road bike. Like it's pretty nice.
it's got some rusty spots on it, but other than that, it's definitely used. But I don't know, I like it, and looking forward to jumping into that a little bit more and maybe not having to run so much. So
That will
Yeah.
probably be a purchase in Bahrain that we'll make. If depending on where we live, we might only be like 15 minutes from base. So I might just like a 10, 15 minute or so from base. So I might just like ride my bike to base to work out.
In the winter months?
Yeah. Cause it's like low
60
of
degrees.
55. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, don't do it in the summer. You
Oh
die.
yeah. No, that's not going to happen. I'm going to have the opposite effect to where like, you know how you do bulking in the winter? Well, in Bahrain, it's going to be bulking in the summer because it's going to go outside.
Yeah.
all right,
You good, Kyle?
I'm good.
Anything
Yeah,
else? All right, Joe, what do you have, man?
So first I will ask, do you guys like bacon?
Duh.
Obviously.
bacon.
Only
Do
duck
you-
bacon.
Yes.
Do you duck bacon? Is that I'm not even gonna ask if that's a
He's
thing.
being his.
Uh,
Keep going.
do you like nut butters, as in like peanut, cashew, almond?
Yeah.
Duh.
Well, then you guys have no reason to not like my BLT PB.
Oh my gosh, I saw you
It-
post that.
It looks delicious with avocado too. I mean, it's like a fat bomb.
That
Yeah.
logic, you just like walked us down. That
Exactly.
doesn't. I don't have to agree with anything
That-
by it.
Set you in that trap. Yeah. Well, when Kyle had that Wednesday question months ago, and I was like, "Hey, post your weird combo that you grew up with." Well, my dad always made us BLT PBs, and then when I posted the other day when I just had them, I just made them on my Instagram. Like
So-
3 people responded, and one of them was, and they were the athlete. They were like, "What the heck is this? Like, why are you like
Bacon,
just
lettuce,
getting
tomato
questions."
with peanut butter.
Yeah, so
It's
you
actually
just-
almond butter, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I did almond butter for mine because I don't do peanut butter.
So it's AB.
Well, yeah,
BLT
obviously
AB.
it was in parentheses.
Whoa,
Okay.
Jared. Whoa.
I'm just.
Let's just not get too technical here.
Whoa,
BL tab.
Got to pay
Yeah.
attention here.
Oh,
Just in case I want to make it.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever kind of nut butter you want.
True. It's
It's
almost like you've had a burger with peanut butter on it. Like people do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
What?
I didn't know
Really?
people did that either.
No.
Jared
Wow.
Jared's got like a very thin parameters, I think, in food.
Hey, I'm in that boat too. I've never heard of that. Putting
So
peanut
if I'm
butter
cooking
on
for
a burger.
myself, very simple. If I'm going outside of my little zone, it's because Emily cooked it and it's good. But she wouldn't cook something like a burger with peanut butter.
You ever had a burger with
He's
an
not
egg
that
on it?
adventurous.
Like a fried egg?
Well, I've definitely had that. Yeah.
Okay, that's at least something.
Let's
Eggs and peanut butter are not the same.
Well, no,
Yeah.
but it's still
Let's not equate those two. That's not
No,
the
it's
same.
still a
thing.
You
hamburger.
basically had it.
Yeah, this is a good tangent. That's all I
It
got.
seems like the peanut butter would melt quite a bit.
It gets a little runny, but it's actually in a good way. So like you have to do a BLT on toasted bread so that it spreads all really, really well anyway. And you just toasted sandwiches are the best.
I mean, I was talking about on the burger. I moved on. Yeah.
Burger too, yeah. And there's actually our go-to burger joint in San Diego. They did a PB&J burger, and it was fantastic.
So really, it would be a BLT NB, so like nut butter, just to kind of cover.
Oh my goodness!
You
whatever
put the N
butters
in
it
there
is.
if you want.
What about just normal butter?
I mean, you can just butter bread. Yeah, that's not going to add that much flavor. It's just butter.
All right.
Butter's delicious.
I disagree.
Any other updates from Joe?
That was all. It's just that was a good tangent, though. See, I got the best updates.
I can't believe that turned into what it did.
I know. How long we've been talking, Ashley? What do you have?
So I am officially off of coffee, like not even decaf.
I'm drinking coffee right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, good thing I can't smell it because that's the worst part. Smelling Scott's coffee in the morning, and I'm like, I just want some coffee. But completely off caffeine. The worst of it was headaches. I didn't really have any other symptoms. So
like vomiting
or shakes. Like people have ridiculous. And like I said, I've had caffeinated coffee since I was 14. So I was kind of scared. But I think the way I did it, I weaned myself off slowly. I think it was good. And that was on Emily's request, or Emily's suggestion, which was great. And then I went to the doctor yesterday. My doctor's appointment ended up being like almost 3 hours, but it was the best doctor's appointment I've ever had. If anyone can see a functional medicine doctor for any sort of issues that you have, I highly suggest it. It was amazing. It was just nice to be heard, and you walk in and there's like all sorts of medical grade supplements that are clean and all sorts of stuff. They had water in a Berkey for you if you wanted. Like it was super like, I was like, these are my people. Like, where have you been? Like, and anyway, so I'm on an elimination diet. Still waiting on labs. So I will keep everybody updated on that. But I'm basically on an AIP autoimmune diet. So speaking of butter and bread and all of the things, I can't have those right now. So, but it's okay. I hopefully this helps my gut issues and some adrenal fatigue and my cortisol levels too. So we'll see. And if not, they'll do additional testing and go from there. So. Yeah.
Really important stuff. Yeah, Emily's done a lot of that. I have a functional medicine doctor as well. He's online. It's actually Julie Foucher's husband.
Yeah.
So it's SteadyMD. I know I've mentioned it before. I just never mentioned the company. We use SteadyMD just because of what Ashley's saying. I hated going to the doctor when I had an issue because they'd just be like, I don't know. The appointments were always so useless. I'd go in for something. If like say I got hurt or like I hurt my chest or whatever, and they'd be like, "What, did you work out recently?" I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "That's probably it." I'm like, "But this is not normal. Like I work out a lot and have for a long time. I'm telling you, this is not normal." They're like, "It was from the workout." I'm like, "Okay."
Just take it easy.
So it's nice to have a doctor, like you said, who listens. You can have like an hour-long appointment with and just talk to them and stuff. So it's just good. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. The one thing I'm nervous about is they told me that I'm going to have to take the intensity down. So I'm not nervous about it. I'm also mourning it. So I'm probably going to have to either cut my workouts in half or do like a strength portion or do the workout that's prescribed that's on Harder to Kill and then just take the intensity down and just make it like a zone 2 whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, intensity is a choice, right?
Yep,
like intensity is not prescribed in anything most of the time unless we're like, hey, this is at 85% intensity. But a lot of the circuits and all this other stuff, intensity is a choice. You can do it as fast or as slow as you want, especially if you need to go lower intensity for medical reasons,
For sure. And that's what, my health is more important. But it also shows that, you can take the same workouts and just kind of dial it back a little bit to help you out.
When I was doing CrossFit, I would scale up to do heavier so I could go slower. So you could do that advice.
Joe, that doesn't surprise me.
Just
Whoa.
Jared, what's your update?
Okay. Hey, no one's ever asked me that before. I normally just
Hey, you're welcome.
Inject it forcefully. Okay, so nothing personal really. I might have some personal updates by the next podcast or next couple of podcasts because I do have some things happening in my life, but I'm not ready to share any of them yet. So I'll keep it Garage Gym Athlete related. First, if you are an Apple user, the Garage Gym Athlete icon just dropped. It's a small, big deal to me. So if you update the Team Builder app and you do have an iPhone, it should ask you, hey, do you want to change your app icon to this awesome Garage Gym Athlete logo? And you just say yes. And now on your home screen, you will see Garage Gym Athlete logo instead of the Team Builder one. So that's really cool. And I'm excited about that. And then the next thing, this is an announcement. It's not coming out yet, but I have decided, and the team will be assisting in testing and doing some other stuff over the next 12 weeks. The EO3 fitness standards tests are changing. A lot of them are going to change. A lot of them are going to stay the same because we have like 16-ish, I think, right now. And we are going to keep the ones that we like and get rid of the ones that we don't like. Predominantly, anything that looks or smells like an Olympic lift will be gone just because, though I developed those standards a very long time ago, and we, even in the programming back in the day, we used to have more Olympic lifting than we do now. Now it's really not there. I mean, there have been more cleans and hard to kill this cycle than other cycles, but we still, for the most part, don't have those things in there. We're going to take those out and update. But a big part of what we do is not just arbitrarily pick things that we want to do. I have to have at least like 3 to 5 different studies backing every single factor. And so that's what I'm diving into, making sure we're assessing things correctly, the correlation to VO2 max and strength and longevity and all those things. That's why it's like a 12-week project and not just like, hey, let me whip up some new things. And then the standards are the harder thing to set because a lot of these scientific studies aren't going to tell you like, oh, well, someone who's elite would do this. I kind of have to test it myself, have you guys test it, probably have a few EO3 coaches who've gone through the certification, test it. And if you are one of those coaches, we'll be sending out information to test some of these standards. But yeah, that's it. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I think it'll be more fun. I have way more data now than I did the first time we put those together. And so I can pull a lot of that stuff. All right. The study this week is effects of low-dose creatine monohydrate on muscle strength and endurance. So I talked about creatine not that long ago and how it makes me gain absurd amounts of weight. And that's not true for everybody. So if you're scared to gain, like, you are not me. You could have a different experience. But what they had here, it was basically 3 grams versus 5 grams versus placebo over 5 weeks. They did strength testing, max push-ups, things of that nature. There were 36 males who had to have at least 6 months of training. And yeah, they did. Is there anything else about the study I need to mention? You guys catch anything?
Double blind, but it doesn't really matter.
Oh yeah, it was insane. I love reading that sometimes because I think it's hilarious. Where is it? It was I had it highlighted. Where did it go? Yeah, it was like double blind controlled. Here it is. Study was a randomized parallel group, double blind, placebo controlled design. There you go. So what does that mean? The more words they throw in there, the more legit the study is. That's all we need to know. So that's what they try to throw in every word that they could. So that means it's legit. And yeah, they tested sit-ups, push-ups, 1 rep max, BMI, height, took all that stuff into account. The basic findings, just for the drum roll, the 3 and 5 gram creatine intake did a lot better than the people not taking it, the people who were taking the placebo. But there wasn't that much difference between the 3 and 5 gram supplementation. So we can get into more of that, the nuances of that, but that is the basis of it. And there are more conclusions to draw from that. But essentially, if you were on creatine, it didn't matter if it's 3 or 5, you're going to see more results than if you're not on creatine. But we can get into some of the other stuff.
So my thing for this one was that even though both groups were taking 3 groups were different, right? So the 2 groups that were taking creatine, they did significantly improve. The other thing that they did state, though, was that the group that had the placebo also improved. So it was
a very important point, yeah.
And that it was a longer time. Like they didn't see results. I think it was 2 weeks, they said, after. Mm-hmm. But at the same point, they still saw strength gain, still saw, differences. So in my that too, like you don't necessarily have to take creatine, but the creatine obviously helped those, guys get stronger than just the placebo group. But that was a main point for me. And then, I didn't understand about, I've never heard of like loading or anything like that either. So I've never taken creatine. I don't know. Females probably.
It's even on the labels of some creatine that you buy.
That like to tell you to load for the
that you should do 20 grams of creatine for like 5 days as a loading phase to like saturate your muscles with creatine. Then after that, you can go to what they call a maintenance phase, which is about 5 grams of creatine. And this is basically saying that's not necessary. It's not necessary to do this massive loading phase. And even in some of the tests, if you read some of the other creatine literature, they just have them on 20 grams of creatine a day, which is absurd. I think 5 grams of creatine is like eating like 2 chickens. Like that's 5 grams, wow. And so we're going up to 20 grams. Like it's kind of stupid. And that's what I look at in supplementation a lot of times is like, I'm okay with supplementing with things, but like, what would I have to do in the real world to get this supplement? And that helps me with my decisions. So if it's like, oh, you'd have to eat like half a cow every day to get this much creatine, I'm like, my body was probably not intended or created to be able to handle that. So I think I won't do that. But these lower dose ones it's very doable even in a normal diet.
Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that to me. So then that even further proves like if you're going to gain strength on just a smaller amount, that's something that your body can handle, then this proves that you can do it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically don't pay attention to the loading phase because it's just another marketing ploy. Like a lot of other
funny
things.
Is like, I was even told that like early on when I first started working out, I took creatine almost when I started. And I think my uncle back then was like, don't do the loading thing. It's BS. And like, I'm talking like 20 years ago. He was telling me that. So he was either way ahead of science or just like knew that these companies are trying to rip us off.
Yeah. It seems from the study as well that 3 grams seems to be a good enough number for most people, the majority of people. But if you're a large person, then you probably do 5. Like actually big person, like probably 220 plus size wise, because that kind of factors in how much, if you have more muscle to go around, then you're going to need more creatine to be spread out. But anybody else, 3 grams would be sufficient enough to get your strength gains. And this is from a purely strength basis performance, not conditioning, not hypertrophy, not size, just strength.
Yep.
So
did it leave you with anything, Kyle?
Yeah. So I would say I agree with everything y'all said. Absolutely understand that supplementation isn't necessary. Like just because it's good for you, it doesn't mean it's something you have to do. It's like what Ashley said, like the placebo group still made gains. But the creatine does speed the process up. And you'll see more gains through it as well in a shorter time frame. But I would make the point that since we have a study here that, says that creatine does help you, supplementation can help you. If you're going to make the decision to start supplementing, make sure that you focus on the quality of the product you're using. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely crucial to supplementation. And that's kind of why I kind of stay away from most supplementation personally. Like I just don't supplement with very much at all. Just
Can't
because
trust the companies.
Yeah. Because it's hard for me to, even the ones that's, that I hear from other people or, can verify online or whatever are good quality products. I still just kind of, I don't know. There's just something in my head that just keeps me from really trusting it 100%. But I would say do your homework on the product that you need to use. And also understand that it's probably going to cost you some money, right? The cheap stuff is typically cheap for a reason. And it probably means that it's low quality and it's not actually going to do for you what you want it to do. So just beware of the marketing schemes and beware of the quality of the product that you're using and make sure that it's something that's good for you and something that's actually going to do for you what you want it to do.
Yeah, so a few things on creatine in that vein. Creapure, it's a CREA Pure, is a fairly good brand. They source creatine. I think On It sells creatine that is from Creapure, so they're just buying it from Creapure, and Creapure is doing it. There are a few other companies. I think Creapure. I've done my research on creatine for the same reason, because I've taken creatine. We've talked about that, but I also want to take something that's really like the best that I can get. And Creapure seems to have like the stamp of approval by most everyone as like one of the most legitimate ones. And it is more expensive, like Kyle said. It's more expensive because I could go to Walmart right now, buy creatine monohydrate for like $3, and I would never ingest it because I'm just not really sure about it. But Creapure is a little bit better. Now the thing is, if you're into like organic and natural and all that stuff, doesn't exist with creatine. Creatine cannot be sourced in a supplement format from animals. It's not possible because they would have to, they'd basically have to kill like 100 cows and get the creatine from the meat for you to have one tub. That would make that one tub like $7,000. So that's why all creatine is basically synthetic. You can't get, like, you are taking a synthetic form of creatine and not getting it from food. So you can absolutely get creatine from food. So if you make sure that you're getting enough meat, chicken and beef specifically have a lot of creatine, has a lot of creatine in it. If you're just getting enough meat in your diet, you should be fine. But sometimes I feel like I don't even eat enough meat, and that's why I will supplement with creatine. I'm not anti-meat by any means, but like if I'm just trying to keep like a creatine ratio in my head, I'll be like, I don't think I ate enough meat to get enough creatine. And that's not something I'm thinking about all the time, but just something to keep in mind with your supplementation.
It's a good point for those on vegetable-based diets that don't really eat meat.
You basically would need to, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a list of like 3 to 5 supplements you should probably be taking if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, and creatine would be one of the things that you should probably supplement with. And not even at these doses, maybe like 1 to 2 grams a day would be fine. Okay, I do have a lot more to say about creatine, just because I know some people are probably interested in taking it. This stuff wasn't necessarily in the study. Just some factors. Personally, when I take creatine, some people say it makes you cramp. It does not give me like a side cramp or whatever like you'd normally think of, but my muscle contractions, like if I'm like reaching my arm out, like my arm kind of like seizes up, and it's a weird, like, that's what people call cramping. My muscles start to feel very weird when I'm on creatine, and it's only for a short period of time, like the first couple of weeks when I'm taking it, and then that kind of goes away. But that, just know that that'll happen. I talked about weight gain. So I'm normally a really lean person. You can, this is not a flex. You can see a lot of my muscles, if you will, with my shirt off, but I get very not lean when I'm on creatine, because I gain so much weight so fast, and most of it's water weight. My abs go like invisible. Like I just get real puffy. It's pretty noticeable when I'm on creatine. I'm just not near as lean. So keep that into account as well. And again, this is just my personal experience, that water retention.
So you just become like the rest of us.
Yeah, my abs are always on creatine.
There you go.
That's what I'm going to tell people from now on. I'm on creatine.
My abs are on creatine.
Yeah, I'm just on creatine. That's it'll go away. Okay, the last 3 things I have. There are a lot of studies on creatine and your cognitive abilities. So we can link to some of them in the show notes. I have some of them pulled up. I was just going to read really some of the conclusions here. Never mind. We'll just put them in the. It helps with your brain energy capacity and your processing speed and recall, short-term recall, like all the. There's a lot of stuff. So creatine has a lot of benefits to your brain, and so you shouldn't only be worried about the performance thing. So there are a lot of cognitive benefits to creatine. There are a ton of performance benefits to creatine if you're going to take creatine. Every time I take creatine, I mentioned this before, it makes Fit Week really fun because like PRs are a lot easier. I feel a lot stronger and stuff. Now, the last thing, the only negative, increases DHT. So DHT is a hormone. I think it's derived, or is derived from testosterone, or the other way around. Anyway, DHT, higher levels of DHT will accelerate hair loss. And so there's only like 1 or 2 studies on creatine specifically and hair loss. But if you are trying to get your information from like a strength coach, so people are going to Google this, and I've done it before as well. You're going to be like, okay, well, is this a concern? And you're going to find coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, who like creatine. They want people to take creatine, and they're going to be like, it's one study, it's not a big deal. Like, no, there's hair loss will not happen from creatine. That's what you're going to find when you kind of try to go research this yourself. But I've talked to medical doctors about this who specialize in hair loss, and they are like, they're not even talking about creatine. They're like, if you have increased levels of DHT, you are going to lose your hair, period, dot. So you have to ask the right questions to the right people. And so that's another thing to take into account. So you have cognitive function is a big deal, performance, possibility of hair loss. But again, if you're taking this low dose, 2 to 3 grams a day, that probably will not affect hair loss at all, just because it's kind of just like having a normal diet. You wouldn't lose your hair any faster than you would be predisposed to do anyway if you are losing your hair. So anyway, just things to take into account. If you're taking 20 grams a day, you could be bald in like 2 years.
Just make sure that strength coach isn't bald telling you you're not going to lose your hair.
No, it's not.
It's genetic.
Yeah, because I think there's only 1 study on it, and they were taking like 20 grams a day. And so I've seen people review that study and say it's complete BS. And that's when I was like, how about I just talk to a doctor about DHT? And I did. And they were like, yeah, you'll lose your hair if your DHT levels go that high. I'm like, thank you. All right.
Good enough.
All right. That's creatine. You guys have anything else?
No.
Okay. Let's get into holding yourself accountable, holding the line, if you will. So I've been battling this as a coach and personally for a long time. So when should you cut yourself a little bit of slack, go easy on yourself? And when should you be hard on yourself and really hold yourself accountable? And I like to just get everyone's opinion on this. So when is it okay to like give yourself some grace and be easy and be like, yeah, everything is okay? And when is it like, okay, maybe you're just making excuses? That's a line that I think everyone flirts with, and I want to talk about it. So what do you guys have?
So I think when you look at things, like if we're just talking about working out and or staying disciplined with whatever you're doing, whether it's nutrition, workout, stuff like that, I think you have to look at things in both a recent view and like a grand macro view. So like if you're going through like a rough month where just like you're moving, a ton of things are happening, you might have gotten sick and you only work out like 2 or 3 times a week, and you might even miss an entire week. That's just 1 month. But if you look at the months before that, and if you think your things are going to clear up after that, then it's like, okay, it was just a month. It's fine. You shouldn't beat yourself up about that kind of thing. But if that month goes into 3 months and you look back on your year and go, I was doing 5 days a week, and now the last 3 months I've only been doing 3 days a week, then you might need to reevaluate, reassess, and see where you need to compromise a little bit, but still kind of take things everything into account. So it kind of good, decent timing for me, because last year I was a 6 training sessions a week kind of person. There were some weeks where I didn't even take a rest day, or I was doing 2 a days kind of things. And now this last 2 or 3 months, because of no gym, moving, everything like that, I work out like 4 times a week now, maybe 5, maybe there's a 5th every couple of weeks. But I just realized that like that's just kind of my new norm because of the situation that I'm in. I'm still getting the work in, but I'm not trying not to beat myself up too much about not hitting those numbers that I were last year, because situation's different. But I'm still, so I kind of lowered my new norm, but I'm still holding that new norm and realizing that down the road it's still going to clear up. And as long as I'm still getting in my 4, then I'm fine for now, and then I'll go about it from there once the dust clears.
I like that. It's a very healthy view.
Keeps me happy, sane.
Yeah.
So I will kind of piggyback on Joe, I guess, but I think you have to know when it is time to dial back. So for example, when I was dealing with postpartum depression, I didn't even want to leave the house. So that kind of stuff, if you're dealing with all sorts of like medical issues, or if you are going through a patch like that where you're going through some anxiety, some depression, seek help. I'll say that. But at the same time, like, know that it's okay. It's going to come back, right? If you want this. So I slowly worked myself into it, and I knew coming back after having a baby, it wasn't going to be the same. So, but I was going to give it the most intensity that I could give at the time. So I remember I just back squatted 85 pounds, and normally, I back squat way more than that. And I just remember feeling so sore, and I just felt so accomplished, even though it was something that, my old self would have looked at that weight and gone like, what is this? This is cake weight, kind of thing. So you have to, again, take your circumstances into account, and kind of exactly what Joe is saying, and realize, okay, what can I do now? And turn to that, or flipping that on its head, when to be hard on yourself. So if you're just not feeling it that day, those are always end up being the best workouts for me. If I just, and I'm not talking like I didn't sleep or I'm injured. I'm talking like I just want to sit on the couch and I want to binge some Netflix kind of day. That's the day that I get in the gym, and it ends up being the best kind of workout for me. I feel better. I don't feel like sitting on the couch and binging Netflix. And always in turn, after that, dopamine hit, I feel like I am going to do something else. Like I end up doing laundry and cleaning my house, and I end up being super productive if I'm able to get that workout in. So you have to it's a balance, right? The grace part has to come when you need it. But at the same time, you need to also be diligent and say, I'm going to get in the gym today. I'm going to get these 5 sessions this week. I'm not sick. I'm not hurt. I'm not, I don't have X, Y, and Z. And you have to mentally push yourself. And the best part about that is if you have, if you have a spouse, if you have someone else who does garage gym athlete workouts with you, online, I hit the boys up in Slack and I'm saying, someone tell me to get outside so I can go work out. And typically someone gives me a reason to go and do it, or makes me laugh, and then I'll go and do it. But yeah, that's my advice for that.
So I've got several things I would say on this, and I'll keep them quick. First thing I would say, it depends on you, depends on your body. As far as pushing yourself, someone else is pushing themselves does not mean it's the same for you. In other words, there's a whole lot of people out there that are trying to show you what it looks like to push yourself, but most of those people don't know you and don't know your situation. So you need to find what pushing yourself is for you, and don't play the comparison game, right? There's plenty of room for going and finding inspiration from other people and motivation from other people, but someone else is pushing themselves hard is not the same as you pushing yourself hard. So understand what it looks like for you. On top of that, or piggybacking off of that, I'll just read it the way I wrote it in my notes. Knowing your limits comes with the reps, so don't skip the reps. You have to get out there and feel what it's like to push yourself before you can know what your limits are. Does that make sense? I'm trying to articulate it properly, but if you don't get out there and actually put the reps in, you're not going to know what it's like to work out when you're sore, or work out when you don't feel like it, or those kinds of things. You need to actually put the reps in. So find a way to get the reps in so that you can then make better decisions moving forward, and kind of analyze things a little bit better moving forward. Also, I would say when it comes specifically to working out, and it comes specifically to pushing yourself in a workout program, know the difference between sore and injured, right? Soreness should be part of your life if you are pushing yourself and working out. Like, you should be sore some of the time, and soreness is okay. Like, I like soreness. I like being sore. Not like, sounds kind of weird, but I like walking around the next day like feeling sore, and like, or moving my arm or moving my leg or something. It reminds me that I did something. It reminds me that I did something hard, and it reminds me that I got better. Injured is different. Injury is the time it is okay to take a step back, right? It is okay to watch what's going on and to maybe cut yourself some slack and just rest for a minute. But the difference between injury and soreness is pretty stark. And it can be difficult for some people, especially people if you're new. Maybe you feel, oh man, I got injured. No, you're probably just sore. But because to me, it takes a whole lot to actually injure the human body. The human body is pretty resilient. It's very strong, and it's meant for some pretty great things. So understand that when it comes specifically to fitness, understand the difference between sore and injured. Like I've felt sore from all kinds of workouts, and we've talked about it a lot, but after that Spartan Beast, like that was different. That was a different kind of pain. You know what I mean? And I just felt like I needed to take some time to kind of let that work itself out before I really got back to pushing myself hard again. So anyway, that's what I would say is know your body and know what it looks like to push for you, and get the reps in and understand the difference between soreness and injury.
I think you all make really good points, and that should be taken into account for everybody's personal situation. I guess I'll speak to the more hardcore nature of all this. And if I cut myself no slack, none. And so I'm also incredibly hard on myself if I make mistakes, completely unforgiving if I make a mistake. And yeah, like I said, I'm incredibly hard on myself. This works for me. And because I never get into it doesn't beat me down to where I'm in a bad mental state. And this is where I think the line needs to be drawn for everybody. I think you should be as hard on yourself as you want to be until it starts to like mess with your brain, and you actually, if you like are starting to lose self-confidence, or you don't believe in yourself, or you actually think you're a piece of crap, like that's not the kind of self-talk. Like if I miss a workout, I'm not like, oh, you're so stupid. And like, that's not the self-talk. I'm more like, that's completely unacceptable. You had no reason for that. Like, don't do that again. Like, I'm very hard on myself in that regard. But I don't think it works for a lot of people. So I think everyone needs to like take that into account. But the reason I want to push this message is not to sound hardcore or whatever, but I know there are probably other people out there like me who get on that slippery slope of, maybe giving themselves a little bit too much grace when you could have done better. Because I think if you're not continually sharpening that axe, then we start to move backwards. And that's kind of the premise of the beginning parts of the Killing Comfort book. Are you becoming a little bit complacent because you decided to give yourself grace that one time, and now that's something you do, and it's nothing you really done before, and now the next time it comes up, you're being a little bit easier on yourself. You're like, let me give myself a little bit of grace here. It's fine. Life is crazy, right? But is it bad enough to where you shouldn't be held to a standard? So I think that you need to set some standards for yourself and hold yourself to those standards. But like I said, you can't get into a negative. It can't be at the cost of your mental well-being. So if you are beating yourself up, or you do get into a negative mental state, then everything I just said about standards and holding yourself out the window. Like I said, I don't lose self-confidence over stuff like this. I'm just really hard on myself. I hold myself to incredibly high standard. And I have a lot of people around me and in my community who are the exact same way. And so it's never that weird to me. But when I talk to other people, like if I'm really hard on myself, let's move away from fitness. Say I made a mistake in life. Emily knows this. I'm like just completely unforgiving on myself. And she'll be like, you're human. I'm like, unacceptable. Like not okay. It's not an excuse. And so, I probably am an extreme on that level, but I want to push everybody to not find that slippery slope. Give yourself grace. In like Joe's situation, when life gets crazy like that, you have to be realistic. And so I'm not saying, those kind of situations. I've been in those situations. I've had 3 kids, and each time I've had a kid, things get a little bit different for a short amount of time. And I've been in a lot of crazy situations life-wise, but then don't let those times you allow yourself to like be easy on yourself to be a new standard you're willing to accept moving forward when life is basically perfect. Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong at all. And you're like, yeah, well, it's okay. Like, it's not okay. You have no reason for it. So I didn't give any of the opposite side of that because I feel like the three of you did a great job. So I only gave the hardcore side. If you guys wouldn't have said it, I would have said some of the stuff that you guys said. So I think cumulatively we covered all the bases.
Yeah, I just one
dichotomy.
Yeah. One final words for me is that stop yourself from falling. And that's like when you get on a slippery slope of your losing, whether it's you're losing fitness days or like, well, in terms of like nutrition stuff, just stop yourself from falling, but don't try and bounce back right away. Just see where you're at, make that not necessarily a new norm, but just don't make it worse than it is now. And then take little measures to make it a little bit better versus going, you know what, Monday, flipping everything upside down and I'm changing everything, because then you're just going to start falling again, or you could.
I like it. All right, the workout. One of my faves. Hard to kill 5-miler.
It's tough.
I guess I'll brief it because it's ridiculously hard to brief. So it's pretty simple workout. It is 5 miles of 400-meter intervals, and it can be done rowing or running, and we give you standards for both, I believe. And so mile 1 is your faster pace, and then mile 2 is your slower pace. Then mile 3, you go back to that fast pace. Mile 4, you can slow down again, and mile 5, that fast pace. And the pacing is set out for you for competitor, established, and recruit levels. And the only way to not get killed or to succeed in the workout is to keep the pace selection that you wanted to, whether that's competitor, established, or recruit. And normally if there's a weight involved, I say, hey, don't go competitor if you're not actually a competitor. But here, it's very safe, especially if you're doing it on the rower. Like, push yourself. Don't go recruit if it's going to be too easy for you. But yeah, I think that's it for me. And then the only other advice tip I have is this happens every time. These are 400-meter intervals, not 500. And so when you look at the row and you're like, how the hell am I going to keep a minute 24 500-meter row pace? Well, you're not, because that's a 500-meter row pace that the PM3 or PM5 is showing you. It's not showing you a 400-meter pace. So keep that in mind when you're doing these intervals. What tips do you guys have?
Well, first, I'm just going to say, dang it, because I can actually do this one.
Good.
I've done it a couple of times, and competitor is super hard. I remember the first time I did it, my hamstrings were absolutely smoked during this. So
did you run or row?
Run. I've only done this running.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if I would try for competitor, because I don't know if my running's even up on those standards anymore. So I might do established. I got to see what the splits are. But yeah, it is tough. There's absolutely no tips on this. The pacing is set for you.
Let me see if I have it pulled up here. So running competitor is, I might need to change these.
It's like 109. It's like 109 or something, isn't it?
It's awful.
Running competitor is 118 per 400. The rest pace is 123, and then it goes to 133 and 138.
5 seconds difference for rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're pretty ridiculous. And the rowing's not easy either. It's just people can normally keep faster paces on the rower because you recover faster, because running is just the most metabolically demanding thing you can do on the planet other than like a burpee. So row if you can't run. That's the advice.
Make sure you warm up. Make sure you get a good warm up. Loosen your hamstrings.
I don't really have any. Oh,
yeah. I said on this one, don't actually sprint.
Don't do it.
Don't. Yeah. Well, that would be my first. That would be my first tip. No. Actually sprint it. You know what I mean? There is a stipulation if you get killed within your first mile, start over. Like, add 5 seconds to your pace. In other words, make your pace 5 seconds slower and start over, so that you can do it again.
Rethink life a little bit too while you're in there.
Yeah, but actually sprint. Like, embrace the mentality of the workout. You know, it's called the harder to kill 5-miler. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to be hard to kill here. You're trying to do something that most people can't do. Embrace the mentality and actually sprint it. You know what I mean? Like, don't pick a slow pace just because you want to go slow. Like this one's not about going slow. It's not about doing 5 miles of 400-meter intervals. That's not what it's about. It's about doing those intervals really fast. And so embrace that mentality and don't sandbag it. Just get out there and push yourself and do it fast.
I might do this one on the bike erg, the harder to kill 10 miler.
So how would you adjust your, would you do 3 miles or
10?
No. Yeah.
I would do 800 meter intervals.
800 meter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
got there.
on the concept too, bike erg, it's crazy how, at least for me, and it might be for everybody. I just don't know a lot of other people with a bike erg. It's like 1 for 1 if I double the distance on the bike erg. Like if I run a mile in 6 minutes, I bike 2 miles on the bike erg in 6 minutes. Like if I double the distance on the bike erg, the times work out to almost the same. So that's been cool to do that stuff. So I would just do 800 meter splits. It would take probably around the same time. I'd probably test it a few times before I did it, but I might do the harder to kill 10 miler just to try it out. Sounds
you
fun.
do you.
I will do me. All right, guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you haven't already, leave us a review in your podcast app. Just pull it up, 5-star review, positive comment. You want to. Helps the show out, and we'd really appreciate it. But other than that, we are in a new cycle, and we would love to have you in the community. So you can go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial, and get started with our training. And anyone who is already training with us, thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.